Hi, my name is Tom Sams. I'm the owner of Tomona Woodworks, which is in Dorchester, South Carolina. I'm going to be doing a series of videos like this, and what I want to do in these videos is I want to give you some little tips on how cabinet makers and advanced woodworkers do things in order to save time and to ensure accuracy. Our project today is going to be putting a cup pull on a drawer face. That's not that big of a deal, just drill a couple of holes. If you've got 5 or 6 or 10 or 15 drawer faces to do, it could be a problem because you got to measure out each little hole, draw a line, make sure that you're centered, and it can get tedious, and after a while it can get to the point where it's easy to make mistakes. So what I want to show you today is how to put this cup pull, which this is the one that we're using right here. If you can see, it's a standard cup pull. However, it is a 64 millimeter spread on those holes. Different cup holders and different handles have different hole spreads. And this one happens to be 64 millimeters. And I can hear you out there right now saying, oh no, not millimeters. I hate millimeters. How much is that in inches? Well, the truth of the matter is those of us who live here in the United States really don't like millimeters because A, we seldom ever use them, and B, it just seems like that's one of those European things that we really don't need to worry about. Anyway, actually the majority of the world uses millimeters, and most of the stuff that you're going to be getting from now on that comes in is going to be in millimeters. Sorry to say it, but that's the way it's going to be. Anyway, millimeters is pretty simple. It works on the base 10, much like our monetary system. And millimeters, of course, is the smallest increment in the metric scale. Well, not really the smallest we use typically. And it's just a little bit less than a 1/16 of an inch. A meter is a little over 39 inches, and a millimeter is 1/1000th of that 39th millimeter, 39 inches. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up our drill press to accommodate drilling these holes in repetition so that we don't make any mistakes. So what we're going to need obviously is our handle. We're going to need a drawer blank. I always use a drawer blank, something that's a piece of scrap wood that I can practice on to ensure that what I'm doing is right. It takes quite a while to build a drawer front, particularly if it's a 5-piece drawer, and you don't want to mess them up. And the next thing I'm going to need is a tape measure. I know you have a tape measure, but does yours have millimeters on it? If yours doesn't have millimeters on it and you're working off of a drawer pull that's in millimeters, then you have to try to convert all that to inches, and it can be a real pain. So get yourself a little tape measure that's got millimeters on it. At any rate, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to change the position of the camera, and I'm going to point it at the drill press, and I'm going to show you how I have that drill press set up. So bear with me, and I'll be back in a second. Okay, as you can see, it's just a standard drill press, except I have made a few modifications to it. I've built myself a table, and just made it out of melamine, and I put a couple tracks in it. Now as I get closer to these tracks, you'll notice that those tracks have dimensional increments in them. And I put the track on both sides of the table, and then around the back of the table, this rail that I have that runs down across there connects to the back of the table by with a little turn knob on each side, and those turn knobs, of course, lock that rail in place wherever I want it. If you notice, the increments are very fine, which is really what we need. And in this particular one, it's also only in inches. So I guess you can have the best of both worlds here. Also on this, on the back rail, if you notice, there are some markings. Now these markings that go across the back here are various hole spreads for drawer handles that I've done. But right in the center, right here, you'll see that there's a center line marker. And that center line marker comes right on out to the drill bit. So what we need to do is when we set up our table is we need to ensure that the drill bit comes right down into that center line marker. Just like so. Try to keep my arm out of the way. There you go. So what we've established now is we have a fence in the back that has a center line on it, and that the center line of the fence is on the center line of the table, and that's all lined with the drill bit. Now, on the back of that fence, I have placed two particular marks for this particular project. This one right here is designated 64 millimeters, and there's one over here that's designated 64 millimeters. But the actual distance between the center and that mark on each side is only 32 millimeters, so that would give us an overall spread of 64. So I'm going to put you back up on a tripod, and I'm going to lay out a drawer face for you and show you how this thing works. Okay, we're back. What I have here is the blank that I showed you earlier, and what I'm going to do first is I'm going to measure this blank, which is representative of a drawer face, and I'm going to measure it, and I'm going to find out the center of this. So this drawer blank is 12 5/8, so half of 12 5/8 is 12 5/16. So we'll mark off 12 5/16, and then I come back from the other direction. I'm sorry, it was 6 5/16, half, and come back the other direction and measure 6 5/16. So we've established the center line of the length of the drawer. Now, what we need to also do is we need to find the center line of the drawer height. So this particular drawer is 6 1/4. So half of 6 1/4 would be 3 1/8. So we'll mark off 3 1/8. So what we've done is we've established the center line for the length, and we've established the center line for the width. Now, the next step is to align our drill bit over the center line here on this horizontal center line right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen the rail, slide it back, and I'm going to bring this guy down and put the drill bit right on that mark. And then I'm going to slide the rail back up to the blank. Now, from here to here is exactly the right distance. It's exactly half of the depth. Now, what I also want to do is I want to try to keep my rail as parallel as possible. And the way I'll do that is I'll utilize my measurements on each side. Now this one over here is about 6 1/4, and this over here is on 6. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this to 6 1/8, and move this one up to 6 1/8, and see how that works out. Still centered this way, so we'll go ahead and tighten this down. It's really not too extremely important, I want to say extremely important, to keep these exactly equal. The reason being is that your hole is always going to be the same distance from that center point. And if that's the case, when we slide this left and right, it's still going to end up being exactly that length. So let's get this thing going. We've established that center line and this center line, and we're certain that our center line on the rail matches up with the center line of the drill bit. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take that center line in the back and we're going to go over to the first 64 millimeter mark. And turn this thing on. Down. Move it over to the other 64 millimeter mark. Pull it down. Turn this guy off. And get our cup handle and put it on there. And as you can see, we are just about perfect. So, all we'd have to do then is to put our drawer face on and then screw it from the back, and it'll be absolutely perfect. Now this is not limited just to drawer faces, this particular setup. If you had, for instance, if this is representative of a style of a drawer, of a door, you could set it up in much the same way. Let's do a little imagining here. Supposing this is the style of our door, and we needed to find a center line. I would find a center mark. We'd set it up in the same way we set the drawer up, and then we could swing these stops down, and we could slide it into the stop, drill our first hole. If you only had one hole, that's all you would need, or you could set up another stop further down the rail, lift this one up, slide it down to that stop, and drill your second hole, and bingo, there goes your handle. It's extremely accurate, and it's something that you can use in everyday work. Thank you for your time, and we're going to give this a little bit of time to set in with everybody, and if you have any comments or questions, please don't hesitate to annotate on the YouTube. Thank you.